Morning. So gosh, you know when you feel like you want to say so much, but actually you don't know where to start. So over the weekend, I was introduced to a series of documentaries called Hidden Colours. Thank you so much, Future Kane, all the way in the US. She's got an amazing name and she is an amazing individual, so thank you. And before I get into that, one of the things I just want to say is that with this, journey for me, for all of us to do better, right, in just dismantling what is a very structurally racist society and world that we're living in, the thing that I'm most appreciative about is people sensing, I don't know how they do this, like spidey senses, at certain points of where I am and just sending me stuff that is absolutely at the right time and I'm in the right headspace to pay attention. Because you know what it's like when people keep sending you lots and lots of stuff and keep sending you lots of stuff, like read this, watch this, read this, watch this. And after a while it can be quite difficult to consume because you've got to censor or sense check what it is. At the very beginning when I first started doing these videos, apologies for the slightly sweating face, it's super early, I'm out on my bike. I was meant to go to the gym, completely overslept for the gym, and I just thought, and when you're just lying there like gym guilt, I'm not one of those people, I've been for a week. And I just thought, you know what, let me just take my mountain bike, let me just go, and so here I am. Gravesend, here you go, look, the dirty Thames River, but still beautiful. Anyway, so apologies if you see me slightly sweating. But anyway, so at the very beginning when I started these videos, I kept getting what I call trauma porn, basically, because it's like when people discover things that they didn't know about slavery or about the treatment of black people, and they just kept sending me these links, when you just think to yourself, listen, I don't know this already, what do you think? So I'm always very reticent, when people, at the very beginning, not now, but at the very beginning, because anyway, that's past. So, super appreciative to get links to documentaries which are challenging to watch, but ultimately uplifting. So thank you, Future, for doing that. And in watching these documentaries, this particular one is a set of 5, and I've ordered a whole load of books, which I'll talk about another time, but in watching these documentaries, and it's taken me a little bit to record this video, if I'm really honest, because I wasn't sure that I could do the video without bawling. Do you know what I mean? And you lot see me cry enough times at the very beginning, or look overly emotional. So I just wanted to take some time and let my spirit settle, for want of a better word, with this. And I realised that I had no cultural identity. And I know this feels really weird because people are like, what do you mean, you're black? And it's no, I don't mean, because what I realised when I was reflecting on some of my emotions and my reactions to what I was watching and sometimes listening to is, for so long I've always felt like my identity as being black is anchored in the countries that my parents are from, where I live, meaning from a country perspective, so in Britain, and the music, the food, the way my friends are or my acquaintances are that I know or who are black. But that's fine, but that's not really, or I never felt like that was really an identity. Do you know what I mean? That's more for me. Those sorts of things are like shared interests, commonality, right? Do you know what I mean? You're part of a community. When I go to the gym, I'm part of my gym and the people there, but that's not my identity. So anyway, I don't even know if that even makes any sense, but when I was watching this, and I just thought, oh my God. So my range of emotions, and they're not in any particular order, but first I was like, okay, let's see, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, oh yeah, this is good, oh, hold on a minute. And then as you start to go and there's more things unravelled, so this is not about, I'm not one of these people who didn't know black history. But I thought I knew Black history, but I didn't. I probably knew like 7.5%, really. After I did some digging, I now, because before, like, I'd give myself like 60%. Oh yeah, Shreen, you know stuff, No. 7.5% is what I would attribute to my knowledge. And so much that I didn't know, about, Black civilization. Before we were Black people, we were Moors, and just understanding the interplay between the Moors and the Europeans, and understanding our role as Black people in creating the civilization, that we live in today. Just made me realise that so much of who we are is based on understanding where we come from. And I have struggled always, my whole life, I've talked about this before, with the fact that emotionally I struggle with diving too deeply into slavery. But I realised for most of my life, I've always felt that my identity as a Black person and my ancestral identity started with slavery. And it didn't. And then when you start to think about like what that does to your innate self-confidence, self-esteem, your self-image, and I watch some of this stuff thinking, white people in the past, and to some extent still today, engineering systems to make sure that they always occupy a position of power and superiority over everybody else. And then I started to think about the role of the media, the role of the education system, the role of the financial system, of, the employment system. And realised that whilst I like to believe that I am not a victim of social conditioning, like, I got really upset when I realised that I have been a victim of social conditioning, because I have allowed a portrait of society, of the world, that isn't based on truth. It's actually based on a lie, to impact how I feel about myself, like deep down. So not like, the snappy confident. It was like, oh yeah, sure, yes, I covered it. It's not that. It's not about that. It's just, it's this realisation that, like, I've got ancestry. It's not even, when people go, oh yeah, we're descendants of kings and queens or whatever else it is. It's not even about the title of the individuals. It's about the achievements. It's about the accomplishments. It's about the ingenuity, the creativity, the detailed thoughts, the art of what's possible and then making it possible. Like, that comes from my ancestors. And when I think about, when I let the dust settle, so to speak, right, when I think about the inherent strength that it gave me just after watching the first one, there's like 5, I think, just watching the first one, and to be fair, the first and the second one probably had the most impact, but if I think about the strength that I felt once I was not upset, then not angry at what was hidden, I just thought, fuck, like, all this time I've allowed my mind to be enslaved. And that's probably what I was talking about in my Freedom to Breathe interview, which was day 2, right? So 2nd of June, I think. And one of the things that I said is, when I was very upset, like, I can barely bring myself to watch that again, but, very upset. And I just said, when people say, like, slavery is ended, and I don't mean from trafficking, or I don't mean from that point of view, but, like, as Black people, why are you complaining about this? Because you're now free. And my counter-argument at the time was, but tell me how we are free. Tell me how we are free when we are still talking about this. What is different other than the clothes that we wear and the houses that we live in? What is different? You know? What is different? And I wonder if part of what I was referring to, not like literally enslaved in some cases, but this idea of mental slavery. And, you know, for me, it shows up in when I have allowed people to treat me a certain way, black or white or non-black, you know, so this is not a, you know, white, black, this is just about anything. I've allowed people to treat me a certain way, and rather than say anything at the time, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but fundamentally, rather than knowing that even if I did address it, right, so I said something, I did something, I wrote an email, I pull somebody to one side and says, that's not on, that's not cool. Every single time, without realising, I was internalising that and questioning, am I good enough? Am I destined only to be the black woman? Do you know what I mean? Am I destined to be the one to keep having to overcome setbacks and barriers and, you know, all the things that have happened to me in my life? Am I destined to be that stereotypical strong black woman who just copes with all of the shit things in life and then just has to keep getting over it every single time? Like, is that all that I am? Is that all that we come from as black people? Because our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-great-grandparents over the last 400 years have had to overcome their version of the barriers that we face. Some of it is about life barriers, but some of it fundamentally is based on an unequal society. And I just thought, you know, like, it's really shit, you know. And for everyone that criticises, you know, and I know, because, like, trust me, it still goes on now, for everyone that criticises, you know, that some black people are very, very angry and very vocal now in their anger. And you know what, like, I get it, you know, I don't even wrong them, you know, and I do think that, and that's where I go back to, sometimes there's work we need to do as black people on ourselves, not to make our message more palatable, but to heal. Because when we are angry, and to the extent that that takes over everything, it's because there are some wounds that have just never been allowed to heal, you know. And watching this, or these documentaries, like one after the other, but the first one was like part of my healing in a way, but it was also that realisation of, like, shit, like, it's the information, not the documentary itself, but the information that I then went up to go look up certain things, and then also realised that there was a lot of things about our black history, or the Moors' history, that was absolutely hiding in plain sight. Like, I've got some stuff in my house I never questioned. I have a Buddha, because I'm spiritual. I'm not, you know, born Catholic, but, you know, it's never been a religion that sat comfortably with me, if I'm honest. But, you know, that's a story for another day. But so I'm more spiritual, and I am very close, for want of a better word, to the Buddhist philosophy of life, because I think of it as a philosophy. Not anyway. So I have a Buddha in my house and in my bedroom. You've probably seen it sometimes if it's not, like, blurred out, but it's a black Buddha, and I've had it for years. And this is a great example of the level of conditioning in my mind, is that when I saw that, I thought that that was because somebody was trying to make a point. Not a point like in a point to, like, political way, it's not about that, but I just thought, you know what, in this day and age, like, you know when you have, like, all the different shades of dolls, like, literally, I kid you not, all the different shades of dolls, you go to, not Toys R Us because they don't exist anymore, but, you know, the equivalent. And I saw that and I thought, oh, that's somebody just doing a Buddha from that point of view. Or I don't even know what I thought, actually. I don't even think I thought about it that deep, because I'm used to seeing Buddhas in gold. Do you know what I mean? Or, like, wooden Buddhas and, you know, all the rest of it. So this one was a black Buddha. And, you know, occasionally, like, I touch the hair because, you know, the hair is like coiled. Oh my God, hiding in plain sight. So then I watched this documentary, did a bit of reading, and then understood, you know, some of the connections. And I just started to see things in a completely different way. Like the Black Madonna, it was always just the Madonna. There's so much stuff, you know, understanding that a painting my mum had in her house years and years ago, I think like a lot of black people, we had this painting in the house, but you know, like Jesus and the Last Supper, you know, listen, I can visualise it, the rectangle picture, and then understanding the history about that's not even a true listen, I won't even get into it, but the point of the matter is I've just realised and understood not just how we have all been lied to. And when I say all, this is not, you know, just as black people in particular, but, you know, everybody, we have been lied to in terms of what our history is as human beings. Do you know what I mean? As civilizations, not as the British Empire, not as, you know, etc., but go back. And that's the importance of almost going back further. But I realised that I was stuck in like some time loop because I could never go back any further than 400 years, because in my mind, 400 years ago, I had no history, you know? And that's when you realise they do talk about this whole whitewashing of history being one of the greatest successful social experiments that have ever been ran in the history of anybody. And now you understand why, you know? Oh my God, listen, I could talk to you about this all day long. All day. And it's probably so long, I'm going to have to edit out some bits because I can't even give you like a little glib 2-minute thing. But, you know, we have to, myself included, there's so much that we have to unlearn. And so much that we have to relearn, and I think pieces will slot back into place better. You know, that's just been my experience, just even in a couple of days. I just feel like I'm just looking at the world very differently. And just lastly, what I'll say, what's been really interesting and encouraging, right, because as you realise, if anybody's in my immediate circles, you just get stuff from me, right? So I was like, Future came, sent it to me. I was like, okay, let me watch it. I watched it. I was like, bang, off to like my mum, my sisters, my brother, you know, you're going to, and then off to like Abby, Leah, you guys need to go watch it. Off you go. And what was really interesting within my family is that we started then sharing what I call like educational, not from like boring educational stuff, but, you know, different meditations. You know, like my sister found a black streaming channel that streams, you know, like independent black documentaries, films, you know, blah blah blah. She sent me that. Then Future Came posted another thing that was what's it called, Tumblr? Like I haven't even used Tumblr in years. I didn't even know it was still existing, but it was basically beautiful high resolution images of black art, of Moors art. I mean, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my, so listen. And I shared it like late one night, and you know, my sister was like, oh, something nice to see before we go to bed. And that is it, isn't it? Something nice to see